It's not like, over the top, but
Mm-hmm.
people are fairly well off. And there's a bunch of neighbors out there with chainsaws, like cutting the tree up for firewood. And I just like drove by it and looked, and I was like, I feel like I'm back home.
Yeah, it does sound like something they do back in your hometown.
Yeah.
Let's see. Other than that, I've been getting into some photography. Um, one of my friends, well, a couple of my friends, I know most of them in the band. Their band was playing this past Friday night, and I went out, and they let me come out to the show and do some just practice with my camera, taking some pictures of them and stuff. It I'm learning a lot. Don't exactly have the right lenses and equipment for that kind of a show, but I did the best with what I had, and so I've been been messing around with Photoshop and Lightroom, trying to get those pictures, where you can, yeah, they're decent quality. And problem is when you increase the exposure, it gets grainy. So when I do the noise reduction to reduce the grain, the photos get blurry. So it's like, yeah, I've got to find some balance there. And so there's a handful of them I'm probably gonna post in about a week or so once I've spent some time kind of playing around with it. So if you guys follow me on social media, then I'll be posting that. What's going on with you?
Well, I worked on, I've got a project I've worked on with a friend that's a agricultural startup, and that kind of kicked back off. And when we started this project, I wrote a kind of a lightweight ORM that just kind of generates code to wrap the stored procedure calls so that you can do, it does ADO under the hood, but it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of idiot proofed and very, very thin. And it's a T4 template that generates the thing, right? And so I got in there again after 4 years and looked at the thing, and there was 176,000 lines of code in the file. And I've got it down, I think, to 102,000. So I did some refactoring of generated code. Now, granted, this is still not the choice I would like it to be, but it's still very thin.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pretty surprised that I could actually get that much out. Like that showed how much I've learned in 4 years, as
Nice.
far as refactoring and as far as easier, better, cleaner ways to do stuff, and just the stuff that you think about doing, like when you're generating code. We probably need to have an episode on some of my learnings from that.
Mm-hmm. That's cool,
So I
man.
did that. I also have kind of switched my schedule around. So like now I don't eat lunch at all, and that was my one meal a day. And so now my one meal a day is dinner time, and it's because food is so expensive where I work. Like I'm not doing this as a dietary thing. It's just me being cheap, right?
Yeah.
But I still lost 6 pounds last week, and I ate like a king when I came home, dude. I have found like this Thai green curry paste and Thai red curry paste that is absolutely the bomb, and I can take a packet of that with, I think it's 8 pounds of chicken, or 2 packets with 8 pounds of chicken, and mix the chicken up with it, and then you dump them. You split it into bags. You pour coconut milk. You dump some vegetables. I use like onions and bell peppers, and froze it. And dude, it is the best thing ever. However, I will add a caveat to that: that if you go to an international market and you buy Thai curry paste and you're not Thai, that is not for you. When you see that it says this much per 2 pounds, that means this much for 4 pounds if you look like me. Um, so like it still was really really good, but there was just a lot of you stop in the middle of the meal to kind of catch your breath again. um,
Fair enough. Fair
so
enough.
yeah, so
So y'all,
that's
not a lot's going on with the podcast right now. Will and I are kind of just doing our own thing, kind of keeping things going. Um, we're looking at possibly switching to Monday nights. We did this week because of the fourth. Next week, I'm finishing up my tattoo, and so we're gonna be on the Monday night again, and then the following. I think I don't remember what we're doing the following week. I'd have to look it up, but we're talking about switching over to Monday nights. We'll keep you guys posted as we determine over the next couple of weeks if we want to make that switch. So this week we got an episode coming out about increasing your self-awareness, and part of that, a really good way, well, part of it is understanding yourself, and a really great way to understand yourself is through some objective psychometric tests. If I could speak tonight, it would be wonderful.
Yeah, considering that you're a podcaster and stuff.
I know, right? I mean, if we got paid, I'd say I speak for a living, but I type for a living. No, that's not true. Anyways, so we're gonna talk a little bit about some psychometric, some psych tests. We'll just call them that. They're not really that, but so some personality testing basically is what this boils down to. And it's not something that you can pass or fail. We know a few people that don't have personalities. Doesn't mean they failed a personality test. There's not a right or wrong way to answer. The point of them is to determine traits about your personality from your answers and help you better understand yourself. Because you may think you are a certain way, or you may perceive yourself a certain way, and then you take these tests and realize, oh, yeah, I have some of those qualities, but really I'm more like this. It can be a little surprising sometimes. There are a lot of online tests out there. To really get deep, you want to find ones that are full length and have validation built into them. And we're not going to go into the psychometrics of validity and reliability. How come I can say psychometrics, but I can't say psychometric?
I don't know. I have that problem in Russian class. There's certain words I can't say unless there's a word before it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man.
So, but we're not going to get into the validity and the reliability of these tests. Basically, if they measure what they're supposed to measure and if they consistently measure it, we're not going to talk about that. You can look those up on your own. We're going to kind of give an overview of them. The whole point is it is possible to lie to ourselves, especially on self-assessments. The longer ones tend to have that validation, that reliability, these things built in, and kind of are going to help us from having those false reports or things like that, and show us like our real nature better than that. And the other thing too is people do change over time. So just because you may have taken one of these tests in the past doesn't mean that that is still your personality. Typically personalities don't change easily, and it's usually through either some extreme circumstances or over a longer period of time that happens. That was a pause for you to write.
Listener questions, right?
No. Are you not looking at the outline?
You want me to do the next one? All right.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was like, you seem to be going pretty good.
I stopped to take a drink so you could actually say something.
I'm like, yeah, so you're on 4?
3.
3. Okay. So the best known of these is the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, and you can find shorter online versions, but they won't have the validation of the full-length test. There are 4 spectrums that are used to determine a person's personality type, and you can fall in different areas of the spectrum. The obvious pop culture one is introvert versus extrovert, which we all hear about, and it's not quite what we often talk about, but we'll get into that in the episode. Sensing versus intuition is another interesting one. That's physical reality versus perception. And the next one is thinking versus feeling. That's decisions based on facts alone versus decisions based on perspective and others' points of view.
So this one is kind of one of those, do you make your decisions based solely on the facts, like just the facts, ma'am, kind of thing? Or do you take into account, all right, here's the information, how is this going to affect other people? How is this going to affect the team? Stuff like that.
Right. And the final one is judging versus perceiving. So this is where you either have an organized and structural response to things, or you're flexible and spontaneous.
Mm-hmm. So another test that's often added to the Myers-Briggs is the Enneagram. Uh, the name of this test kind of comes from two Greek words, Ennea meaning 9 and grammus meaning written symbol. So if you actually Google the term, you're likely to see images of this 9-pointed star symbol with numbers around it, and sometimes they'll have the different types. When taking this, you'll score. You'll have a score in each of the 9 areas. The top one being your dominant area. Some people have 2 kind of dominant areas, usually a primary and a secondary. For example, I am a 2-3 or 3-2, and I'll explain that in just a moment. There's really only like 1 or 2 point difference between the two of them, so it's sort of like up in the air which one is primary and which one's secondary. I'm pretty close on those. But like I said, they're numbered 1 through 9. And what this does is it describes sort of how you see the world and how you meet challenges that are faced. So number 1 is the reformer. This is sort of the rational and idealistic. These are principled, purposeful, self-controlled, and perfectionistic. Number 2 is the helper, or also called the lover. This is the caring, interpersonal type. They're demonstrative, generous, people-pleasing, and a little bit possessive. Number 3 is the achiever. They are success-oriented, pragmatic type. Kind of adaptive, excelling, driven, very image conscious, very, go-getter. Number 4 is the individualist, or the creative. These are sensitive, withdrawn type, very expressive, dramatic, can be self-absorbed, and possibly temperamental. 5 is the investigator, or the thinker. This is the intense cerebral type. Very perceptive, innovative, kind of secretive, and isolated a bit. Number 6 is the loyalist. These are committed, security-oriented type. Very engaging, responsible, anxious, and suspicious sometimes. Number 7 is the enthusiast. And I know I'm going through these kind of fast, guys, but this is all stuff you can look up online. I just want to give you guys an idea of it. Or the adventurer. This is kind of the busy, fun-loving type. They're always doing something, very spontaneous, versatile, but they can be a bit distractible and scatterbrained. Honestly, I said now I'm a 2-3, 3-2. I would say in college I was more of a 7-8. Because number 8 is the challenger, sometimes the leader. These are the powerful, dominant type, self-confident, decisive, can be a bit confrontational and willful at times too.
That doesn't sound like anybody we
know. Number 9 is the peacemaker. This is someone that's easygoing, self-effacing type. They're receptive, reassuring, but they can kind of be a little over-agreeable and complacent. And the interesting thing about this is I wasn't super surprised by the type that I got, though looking through it, I probably would have pictured myself or said that I was a 7 or 8, just because that's the way I was for a long time. I have a friend who she's the one that kind of got me into this, but she's a really great artist, very creative. She's a 5 with close 4. So she was very surprised when she got her results, and she told me, she's like, yeah, I found out I was a 5. She's like, I didn't expect that. But then we talked, and she's like, big reader, definitely an introvert, that kind of stuff, and just very thinking type, but she's also very creative and artistic. So that's why I said you want to find these tests that have that kind of validation in them, because you may perceive yourself as one way. So if like you're looking at this going, oh, well, I'm this, you may go take the test and find out, you know what, I have some traits of that, but I have more of this other thing.
Yeah, I mean, I would think I'm probably a nine, but I don't know the others. Looking at the others, there's a mix of traits. I tend
I
to
don't know if I
try.
call you a nine.
Hey, this is the only time anybody would call me a nine. Let's just go there.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, and speaking of which, the next thing is the discussion of the love languages, and this isn't just for romantic things. This is how we express and accept affection and how we give our signs of friendship, and they can be applied to any type of relationship, whether it's romantic, friendship, or even professional. Most people have a primary language, which is how they express and receive affection. However, some may express it differently than they receive it. The first one is words of affirmation. That's building people up with words. Thanks for taking out the garbage. Not it's time you took the garbage out. The flies are going to carry it out for you, right? It's
Yeah,
Although there are people I think that would prefer the latter. I think I would probably prefer the latter.
you're more the latter. I am definitely my receptive love language is definitely words of affirmation. Like you say something nice to me, it makes me want to work twice as hard the next time I do something for you.
Right. Uh, so the next one is gifts. And a gift says that this person was thinking about me. Look at what they got for me. This one works really well for me on the receiving end. I guess tends to be how I perceive. Um, the next one is acts of service. So like doing something for someone that that they would like. Cooking a meal, washing dishes, vacuuming floors, carrying heavy crap, helping them move, that kind of stuff. This tends to be the way that I give to people.
Mm-hmm.
So the next one is quality time, and that's where you give another person your undivided attention, taking a walk together, going and watching a movie, those kind of things. I have some members of my family that are more tuned towards this than I am. My thing, I think I'm probably about the reverse of this. It's like, if you like me, leave me alone. So,
That is so introverted. So
yeah.
introvert.
And the last one is physical touch. So that's holding hands, etc., all the way up. Um, probably a little bit depending on the context there is kind of where I would come from on that.
Yeah, I mean, Will really doesn't want to hold my hand.
Yeah, and I get weirded out by people that are really huggy. Like I'm not like my wife, and some of her friends really do not like hugs at all. And we've got another friend that's his way of expressing himself.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, got several like that, and yeah, that's no bueno.
Yeah. I remember going to church with several of like my friends' grandparents that were, the church lady hugs, uh, because that
Yeah,
was their way, that was their love language
yep.
was giving hugs. And so, um, yeah, I'm a little weird on that one. I feel kind of awkward with it
Just on
because,
that.
well, I don't have a problem like hugging someone and stuff like that. Where I get weird is like if it's going to weird them out, because I'm very
People pleasing.
yeah,
That's
kind of
a big
people pleasing. Yeah,
thing.
it's more not in tune. What's the word I'm looking for?
Empathetic,
Empathetic. Yes, that is the word I'm looking for. Thank you.
which you can't spell without pathetic. Sorry, I just had
Thank
to
you.
drop that in there
Yeah,
for you.
right.
That's me being that's my words of affirmation for you.
Thank you, thank you. That's very, very affirming. Very, very affirming there.
Hey, it's affirmative.
Oh my goodness. All right. So speaking of that, let's move on into our questions.
Yeah. Okay. So the first question is: I gave 2 months' notice that I was leaving my company and was told that it was unprofessional. How should I proceed? Well, part of that depends on who told you that, right?
Mhm.
If the next job told you that, I can kind of see them having an issue, right? They got ink on the contract, and then they can't actually move on whatever they're hiring you for 2 months. That's a bit of a problem. Now, if it's the company that you're leaving, go, okay, how about 2 days? Because you're kind of doing them a favor by sticking around long enough to, offboard everything.
Yeah.
So it kind of depends on who's saying that. Now, if it's somebody else in the situation, random goober that's on the bus with you says, "Oh, that's unprofessional." Um, I'll just go ahead and tell you, never take advice from somebody that you wouldn't ask for advice from.
So this is what confused me when I found this question. I was like, how, like, most people give 2 weeks notice. Is it unprofessional because it's too much time?
Yeah, I
Why
don't know. I mean,
why would they
like,
say it was unprofessional? Because I don't, like, what should you do? Like, what do they think is professional then? Like, that's what I would ask. I'm like, all right, so
well,
what would professional be in your terms?
some um, sometimes companies kind of want you gone. Like the reason it's 2 weeks is so you have time to offload everything. But the other thing they don't want you doing is sitting around collecting a paycheck with nothing to do while talking happily about leaving this pest hole for a better place. Right. So there may be that angle there. I kind of question, like either 2 months is good enough or it's not for your employer, and either it works or it doesn't for the next one. So I'm kind of wondering what the angle on this one is.
And I mean, I don't know the full details behind it because we don't have the person that asked the question here to give us more detail, but um I would think that it was something to the effect of, all right, I'm, I'm moving from here to here and this is when the new job starts, so I've got 2 months to give you notice, so I'm going to give you, plenty of advance notice and maybe even help hire my replacement.
Yeah.
That would be my thought. Like, that's what I would do if I were in that situation. All right. Moving on to the next question. What are some must-read books for software developers or software developments?
Software
I copied and
development.
pasted this question, so you just let y'all know.
Yeah. It's not his fault. It's the Control C key combination.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Clearly copied wrong.
Yeah.
So I mean, I got several. If you're
You go first. I was going to
Yeah,
ask you
there's some
first.
stuff I was required to read when I started this career. Back when the Dead Sea was just sick, and one of the things was the Pragmatic Programmer, um, Code Complete, Don't Make Me Think. It's another good one. Um, and then I had to read like the design, the Gang of Four design patterns book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are four really really pivotal ones for me. I think.
Yeah, I was going to say two of those were two that I was going to mention was Pragmatic Programmer and Code Complete, as I kind of meshed those two. I also am going to say that we have switched things up in the show. If you guys have been listening to our recent episodes, you know this, but we're doing a book review now instead of IoTs. We're just giving it a go. We're going to give it a few months, see what people think, where each month I pick a book and go through it. As I read it, I talk about it and explain what's going on. Our very first book was Pragmatic Programmer because that was such a big one. In August, so we've already got our episodes recorded for July, but coming up in August, we're going to be going to a slightly different type of book. We're not going to be doing a programming book. We're going to be doing Power Talk, using language to build authority and influence. So if you guys want to go ahead and get that book, you can. But yeah, that's the book we're going to go through in August. I'm going to be reading it right along with you guys. And each week in August, we will talk about a couple of chapters. And I'll kind of give a highlights reel, some things that jumped out to me and stuff that I thought was important for you guys to take a look at. And August, the first episode in August, we'll have that a link to that book that you can follow and get it for yourself. So guys, I've already mentioned it, but the episode coming out Thursday is Increasing Self-Awareness. Now, we've had conversations about emotional intelligence, goal setting, journaling, and a lot of other topics, each one a part of helping you to better understand yourself. Increasing your self awareness will allow you to not only know why you do the things you do, but allow you to control your own behavior in highly emotional situations. In the episode, we put together a lot of the previous conversations we've had and talk about tips to increase your own self awareness. It's going to be a really good one. Working on editing it right now, so it'll be really cool. You guys are going to like it. Will and I have another really awesome episode we're about to record, so we're going to hop off here and do some recording. Oh, just looked at the Facebook Live, so just shout out to Tara. Hey, see you're on there watching, so wanted to say hi. Let me see if there's anybody else on here. Nope. I see that there's three people on there, so 2 other people watching, but it only shows me my friends. So hi, Tara. All right, y'all. We're gonna hop off here, and we'll talk to y'all later.